This is a follow-up to my earlier video on my Defective Seiko Arnie, the SNJ025. I thought I would show how the watch is now that I've gotten it back from Seiko, at this point, for the third time, and to kind of show what I feel of this watch so far. So, for the full story, I've got a couple of videos I'll link down below, but the long and the short is that I bought a brand new Seiko Arnie back in April of 2024. The watch came to be defective. I'd go out in the sunlight and it would factory reset the watch. I sent it to Seiko's repair center in the US in May of this year, of 2024. They sent me the watch back after 3 or 4 weeks, about a month. I had to pay shipping to them, which I was not a fan of. I received the watch back and the watch still did not function. So I gave them a rather angry, at least angry for me, phone call and email to explain that they hadn't actually fixed the watch. They sent me a return address label. I shipped the watch back to Seiko now for the second time. So this is now the third time that the watch has been away from me because, you know, count shipping time, first time, all that. You know, I was without the watch for a while. I get the watch back late June of 2024, and it's finally functioning. Now, the question here is, what did they do? So when I first got the watch back, I got an itemized receipt that said that they swapped the movement and whatnot, and that the case back was scratched up so that they fixed it. When I sent the watch back the second time after it came back being not defective with a new movement in there, I have a feeling that I was given a different watch. So the reason why I say that, the case back here, they have the serial number engraved on here. This is not the serial number that I had before. The one that I had before was for a 2023 production watch. This one, I looked it up, it's a 2022 production watch. So is that because they just swapped the case back from a different watch? Or do they give me a new watch? I don't really know, but the long and the short is that this watch works now. So they either swapped the movement and then gave me the case back off of a different serial number watch, or they just gave me a new watch entirely. So since getting it back, I've had no issues with that defective, as people were calling it in the comments, the vampire Arnie, where it was dying in sunlight. But now I've had the watch for about 2.5 months of it actually functioning and living with it, so what are my opinions on it so far? Well, people always will say, I've seen videos, people say the thing wears really big. After wearing G-Shocks for a while, this doesn't wear that big and it's pretty comfy. I did pull it off of the OEM strap because the big metal buckle for the keeper was really uncomfortable, and that rubber that they use is very soft and supple, which meant that it was catching on things and it was retaining a lot of heat and moisture. It was 110 and 115 degrees here back in July when I was wearing this watch a lot. That wasn't very nice. So the Tropic allows a little bit more breathability, and I found it to be more comfortable, and of course no steel or aluminum keeper there. The watch has been relatively accurate for a quartz watch. I would say it's about 10 seconds a month of accuracy. And you might be thinking, well, compared to an automatic, that's fantastic. But compared to most quartz watches, that's pretty average, right? The bezel action is still kind of mushy. It requires some resistance, a little bit of back play, as you can kind of see there. I'll bring it up to the microphone so you can hear that. Sounds good, but there is that back play there. And this is just kind of feeling mushy. The settings on here, I've been using them all quite a bit. Generally speaking, when I'm wearing the watch, I have it set to the date and the day of the week and then having the time for the analog hands. And I use the actual time for nighttime when I'm sleeping. The second time zone I've not really monkeyed with because it's separately slaved, much like the UDT where it's not tied to the main time. It's a little bit weird to use it. I've seldom used the stopwatch. I've used it like twice for baking lasagna, but generally speaking, I'm using the timing bezel when I'm actually timing things. I haven't used the alarm. That's just the default time the alarm was set to when I got it back from Seiko, and then we're back to the time. I'm not going to monkey with using the other crown because we have 2 pushers in the crown here. This is not how to set this watch. This is just talking about how it's functioned for me so far. One thing I will give it some credit for compared to the UDT, I'm not trying to make this a comparison here, but you know, it's bound to happen. The lume on this is fantastic. Obviously, this is the light box, so lume is going to look good on either watch. You can see those two are glowing down there also. The thing to keep in mind here is that you won't see the longevity from my 5 or 6 minute long video here. This lume lasts all night. If I charge this watch up at like 11 o'clock at night, when I'm up at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, it is still glowing pretty good. And on top of that, we have a rather good backlight. Again, the green lume is going to be kind of blowing out the backlight here. This backlight's borderline blinding at nighttime. I have to kind of, I'll turn the camera or the lights back on. I kind of have to like cup the watch with one hand and press the button with a pinky, so I'm not blinding my girlfriend in the middle of the night. So I can't complain about the lume on here or the backlight. One thing I will say is that the general build quality feels kind of cheap. The pushers are this kind of like bright color. The case back is all scratched up from just being on my arm. The bezel looks cheap from a lot of angles, and it feels kind of crappy. And then one of my biggest gripes is that the pushers have this tendency to unscrew themselves. And again, this is where I'll give some credit to the UDT. On this one, when you screw the pusher in, you're actually screwing the outer part in. On the Arnie, you actually, to tighten it down, the button sits flush with the pusher itself. You can actually still push it a little bit, and you can feel it. So it doesn't inspire a ton of confidence. But the issue I've had is that because they're like reverse threaded, I've actually had them walk out as I've just been doing my daily tasks or being about. This has been a watch I've worn to the gym quite a bit, and I found that a lot of repetitive motions have actually made these two pushers slip. Not the main crown pusher, but just these two, especially the top one here. I found that it's only used for the backlight, but you know, the water resistance is compromised to a degree if the pushers are out. I'm not too concerned about that for diving, but it's more so like, hey, why can't they make the lockdown pushers actually lock down pretty well? However, all of that being said, I am happy that the watch is functioning now and I've had time with it. I will be publishing a written review and some video content on this watch in the future. But if you'd like to know my opinion on buying this right now, unless you really like this design, you get all the same features from this that you would get from a G-Shock. And that G-Shock will cost you a lot less money. It'll be better made. It'll be higher quality. It'll be more accurate. It'll have a better backlight. I like how the Arnie looks. I'm a sucker for that. It's got the tie-in for some movies, you know, Bond films and of course the Schwarzenegger films. However, for the money and how much pain this watch cost me, I couldn't recommend this unless you were really an insane person like I am. If you want to buy one of these, if you can check it out in person and make sure it doesn't have that defective module issue that mine had, do that. Or if you know you're getting one that works, so it's an older serial number or it's a used one that you know functions, go for it then. But for the roughly $400 these things sell for, I don't think it's worth it. You know, talking build quality, the UDT is about $100 cheaper, better made. Talking about even more build quality, a $90 G-Shock 5610 is better made than this, right? But when we're buying watches, we are not necessarily being logical. The Arnie is not a logical watch for anything you're doing, right? Unless you want to feel something, I don't know. I like it. And again, that's the inconsistency. Is this is my least favorite watch, but also the one that I think I've worn the most over the last 3 months. So it's that weirdness. Thanks for watching, and again, I'll be having more watch videos coming out in the near future here. You know, tentatively a review of the Arnie, and then I've got a Signum Cuda that I'm borrowing from my good friend Real Ideal Gear here on YouTube. So I should have some video content on both those watches soon. Thanks for watching.